Hey, primates! Links to the video we react to today are in the description below. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as hit the little bell to be notified whenever we go live or put out new content. It really helps us out. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show! Alright, I am genuinely curious. This was from 7 days ago. I'm genuinely curious to see what other people are saying about this. Honestly, I have a long history of being a fan of the Rooster Teeth company. Of course, you can have whatever opinions you want to have about, like, them in the later days or the, towards the end. But I was always a big fan. Like, especially from, like, everything they did, like, in Austin and stuff like that. Especially before Stage 5, like, like, I was really deep into it. Not that it has, like, anything to do with, like, when they moved there. Like, it's not like anything changed, for me, but just, like, I was, like, super, like, I religiously watched, Rooster Teeth, but, like, in that time frame, I would say. But yeah, dudes, let's check it out. I genuinely want to see what other people are saying about this. Just interesting to me. Let's go. Let's check it out.
12 million subs. 25,000 people are pushing the next generation of content at Rooster Teeth. I challenge you, the rest of the weekend you're here, go to panels at VidCon, go to speeches and keynotes, see if anybody ever talks about 25,000 people. If we uploaded the video to YouTube and it got 25,000 views on it, we would assume that there was something technically wrong with it and we would re-upload it. 25,000 views on it, we would assume that there was something technically wrong with it and we would re-upload it.
On March 6, 2024, Rooster Teeth announced its closure.
Wow, so their standard was 25,000 and they were hitting 5K. Now let me be fair. Those numbers are amazing to me.
Technically wrong with it and we would re-upload it.
7.9K? Are you kidding me? I freaking
March 6,
wish!
2024, Rooster Teeth announced its closure. The reactions were of sadness, but not a surprise, because the company at heart died long ago. What was once a passion project of its founders and talented second-wave newcomers has long lost its momentum, reputation, and most importantly, its profitability. It could no longer satiate its many different corporate owners since its selling to Fullscreen in 2014. Its death was a gradual process poisoned by mismanagement, plagued by controversy, and doomed by its loss of identity. This has only been exacerbated in the past 2 years with baffling decisions influenced by its desperation.
There's an honest answer, and that is YouTube revenue just is not cutting it for us anymore. To give you
YouTube.com at Dogbark Show.
Dogbark Show. And that's also all our social media channels.
Bro, they stretched themselves way too thin. They had, like, a certain group of talent. Alfredo, I would honestly include into that, like, higher tier talent. But, like, the main achievement hunters were, like, their bread and butter, bro. They got numbers. They got freaking numbers, dude. And not only that, but they were freaking content kings, bro. Like, anything that was content, they freaking filmed it, they put it out there. You get what I'm saying? They were good. They were really good at that. The problem was they kept trying to, like, put Michael Jones in this show, and then they tried to put Alfredo in another show, and they tried to put, like, like Trevor in another show. They kept trying to put all these people, like, in different shows with new cast and new people. And the problem is that a lot of people, like, similar to, like, look at HoloLive, look at Niji Sanji, well, more HoloLive now, right, nowadays, but people like specific dynamics. They like to see Gura and Mori Calliope. They like to see, Moko-chan, with, like, Narissa, stuff like that. So, like, they're typically personality types that really blend well together, and most people tend to enjoy those, like, those collaborations, which is why the entire Rooster Teeth, like, the entire Achievement Hunter, like, crew had, like, team names. Team Nice Dynamite, some other ones, Team OG, all that,
As well.
This is how it all unfolded,
They
and why
started
Rooster Teeth
stretching
died.
out the cast way too thin and putting them everywhere else to try to, like, bump up other smaller projects.
A major issue with
instead of
the
focusing
dissolution
on
of
their
Rooster
few
Teeth is
major
people are not
projects.
sure what will happen to the IPs. At best, they'll be distributed to whoever Time Warner wants, and at worst, lawsuits can be involved. It is unknown, but also unlikely that there will be any. But those are just lawsuits at the business level. At the micro scale, those things matter too. But maybe they don't have to be as difficult to process. This is where Morgan & Morgan comes in. Morgan & Morgan is the largest personal injury firm in America. They turned this case into what would have been a $300,000 settlement into a $12.2 million verdict. But Morgan & Morgan doesn't just have the size and experience. They also have ease of access, and most importantly, you don't have to pay unless you win. I just looked up Morgan & Morgan on Google, and this is all it takes to really get into the process of submitting a case evaluation form. They also do cover a wide variety of cases. I mean, just look at all this. It's kind of crazy. But it makes sense being such a big firm. Again, this can all be done through a phone, and you don't need to visit any offices or schedule any appointments. If you ever get seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at www.forthepeople.com/June. This is found in the description.
I'm gonna slip on a banana at the market oh no, I'm my back, my tail, I broke my tail.
Or by scanning the QR code.
No,
on
please don't
screen
actually
from your
do that. I'm
phone's
not gonna do
camera.
that, but
This has been a paid sponsorship, and now
I'm just saying, I need a paycheck.
The previous video on Rooster Teeth showed its massive rise to popularity, assisted by the mind of Bernie Burns, one of the co-founders that took its widely successful Halo-based series, Red vs. Blue, and turned that into a machine that only knew success. It valued the interaction between friends above all else.
Don't be an asshole.
From Let's Plays to higher quality in-person content, podcasts, and even its own anime-style series known as RWBY, formerly directed by the extremely talented and hard-working MonkeyVtuber.
Freaking love
Rooster
Ruby.
Teeth had the know-how, passion,
I gotta
and
catch up,
talent
though.
to not just adapt, but to thrive in different generations across YouTube. So, what happened? But more importantly, when did it happen? In 2024, Rooster Teeth was acquired by Fullscreen. This is a change that rattled fans and employees alike, and it may or may not have been correlated, but
Rage Quit
since
is
their
absolutely amazing,
acquisition,
my dude.
their views,
Are you
which
kidding me?
were already
It's
half of what they
absolutely
were the year
amazing.
prior, stagnated but didn't decline. For the next 3 years, they would fluctuate around 50 million views a month, a very sizable amount for their main channel, Rooster Teeth. Some notable existing properties included the YouTube channels Achievement Hunter, the Slow-Mo Guys, and the newly established Funhouse, which was also known as the Rooster Teeth LA office. But it wasn't always like this.
They just
Rooster
called
Teeth
it the
was
Rooster Teeth
primarily
LA
known for
office.
the
Wow.
machinima like Red vs. Blue, a
Funhouse
Halo-themed
dudes were pretty
series
cool.
that though fast gained traction, after several seasons and the introduction of a highly competitive market, the series was on decline.
It was a pretty cool. They had
Rooster
some pretty
Teeth's
cool
other
ideas, like
vastly
playing
popular
demos and stuff
series,
like
known
that.
as RWBY, or just how it's read, RWBY, was
Demo
picking
disc.
up
That was
the
pretty
torch.
cool.
Its creator, MonkeyVtuber, renowned for his talent in animation and for revolutionizing Red vs. Blue, made the first 3-minute-long trailer for RWBY in just 2 weeks. MonkeyVtuber was a strange but enthusiastic
R.I.P. my dude. What an absolute legend, by the way.
character. He was a beast that created not only a successful series that directly captures his signature fast-paced combat animation, but also created the first American anime to be exported to Japan. While RWBY had a rough first volume, the following volumes rose in ratings. But in 2015, during an uptick in reviews and the show progressively improving in ratings, MonkeyVtuber, its creator, passed away. This was due to an allergic reaction from a simple medical procedure. While there was a direction MonkeyVtuber had in mind for the show before his passing, the grander scale story for the show had not been fleshed out. And after his passing, there were notable changes to the combat choreography that in some areas became significantly slower. The seasons have been on a downward trend in ratings since then, a disappointment since its show promised so much in 2015. By 2000,
That's very interesting because it was around. I'm still on season 5. I gotta watch season 5. Like I pretty much slowed down around that time too. To be
16,
honest.
all projects, save for some channels like the Slow-Mo Guys or even Funhouse, showed little growth. Normally this would not mean much, but to a company, they want a return on their investment and they want that money fast. Podcast-style shows were prioritized like never before. These, while not entirely inexpensive to produce, as it still takes a small production crew, were still far cheaper than other projects like Immersion, a series that emulates video game situations in real life. This is to say
Which
that
was
the
a great
direction
show
of
too,
greenlighting
actually.
various podcasts created
They
very
actually brought in like a lot of their community on that stuff too, especially like on they would have real life zombie scenarios happening, like where they would have actors try to slowly walk at them and try to get at them, you know?
podcast centered Rooster Teeth. Fun fact, The podcast section on the Rooster Teeth website is the only section that takes an additional page to load everything. The irony is, the focus on turning a profit is what killed Rooster Teeth. The company had survived by leapfrogging from different experimental series that were hardly limited by budget. Their reputation also brought on new talent that would have new creations that also melded well with the original cast, both of which never came again. New hires were not cut from the same cloth. Previously, talented individuals sought out Rooster Teeth and would forego better-paying jobs elsewhere to work in a company they were big fans of. That's why 2009.
And that was a big. I feel like that's at a core of a lot of these YouTube channels. Honestly, especially the content houses. It's where it's a bunch of creative people trying to find a lot of other people who are incredibly creative too and have like the drive and the motivation and stuff to get stuff done. And then suddenly it stops being about that and starts being like a company just hiring their next employee, you know?
2019 through 2024 was where the company died.
And there is a difference.
The founders, or even just the core cast, were leaving in droves. Bernie Burns, the charismatic, lovable jerk, both left the company and the US. Joel Heyman was booted due to controversial tweets around COVID and protests. Jeff Ramsey, the impassioned, down-to-earth punching bag, was scarcely making appearances. Second-generation members also...
He was having a lot of personal problems too in his life, so that kind of was understandable, honestly. But I believe now he's doing a podcast called Fudge Face. It's not using the word fudge, but it's Fudge Face.
Left, Ray Navarre Jr.
Still.
Lawrence Sontag, that ran the
Ray is still streaming to this day on Twitch. He streams with Chibidoki. Brown Man.
Funhouse,
Shout out to Brown Man.
And then there was Ryan Haywood and Adam Kovic. These two did not really leave of their own accord because these married men were fired from the company following many accounts of sleeping with fans and worse. Ryan Haywood's accusations were so long that a spreadsheet was made to keep track of them. This turned out to have quite insane elements attached to it, as just before this all came out,
I remember all
Rooster
this.
Teeth made it a point to tweet, quote, "This is a regular reminder that we happily and proudly stand for social justice. We have no tolerance for racism, sexism, or harassment of any kind. If you're not with us, this is an airport, no need to announce your departure. Heart," unquote. This tweet was in response to a different controversy where Mika Burton, a former Rooster Teeth employee and daughter of the famous LeVar Burton of Star Trek fame, tweeted out that the reason she left the company was because of the lack of support in the company when she was involved in her own controversies surrounding opinions that did not resonate within the Rooster Teeth viewership. This was...
Well, that was a big thing too, is that as soon as Rooster Teeth... First of all, I love Mika Burton. Huge fan. I got the pleasure to meet her one day at Anime Expo. Amazing person. Rooster Teeth was definitely one of those companies that anything controversial, they're basically like Ludwig nowadays. Anything controversial, anything that's like has a strong opinion, they would avoid. They would try to avoid it as much as possible. They wanted nothing to do with it. They got rid of everything involved. Like, they just did not want to deal with nothing.
Sparked by a tweet
so they didn't really they would always take the very safe approach to everything, basically.
Sparking that she
not that
was
there's anything really
mistreated,
bad with that,
and ultimately
but
culminated into Mika Burton's father retweeting her.
I can
stating,
see how
quote,
people
as a company.
I can see how people would see them as like not spineless. I don't want it sounds too harsh, but I can see how people would be saying, like, especially at the time, it wasn't quite the same as it is nowadays. At the time, it was just kind of like people wanted companies to stand up for their employees to a certain degree too, on like these social issues.
Company at Rooster Teeth failed you and your right to work in an environment absent of blatant racism. Hopefully now they will address their toxic company culture, unquote. On the business side, Rooster Teeth was performing terribly. The company was heavily trying to transition.
And again, a lot of employees talked about how it was a pretty toxic work culture all around.
Not just to an animation studio, but also a subscription video on-demand service. This is akin to Netflix, Disney+.
Yeah, they were one of the first ever. I had a subscription at one point for like 2 months, but that was about it. I couldn't afford any of that stuff.
Hulu, HBO Max, and Apple
No, there was
TV.
a cool minute there where they did
Rooster
like a box.
Teeth, this small company, through the leadership of Warner Media, was thinking it could step into the ring against
Like
these
Loot
titans.
Box, like Loot Crate.
What they had to offer was a small catalog of newly animated series that in 2017 cost nearly as much as Netflix. To add to this, Rooster Teeth always had patrons that were paying Rooster Teeth as sponsors. they did not get many benefits and were giving money to them as one would a creator's Patreon. This change to them paying for a service rather than patronage was indicative of the corporatization of the company and made it clear that the money would go to line the pockets of the parent company. The most disastrous example of this greedy, doomed to fail model was Genlock. This series always poisoned the company in one way or another. The first season, through the mismanagement of Grey Haddock, had employees work overtime. The overtime went...
Oh, they had crunch? Okay. Like, they had the whole crunch culture. I remember there was a big, like, the Genlock was making big waves. There was a lot of talk about it, and it came and went. Nobody really, like, gave it.
Brought in interns,
people were
which
going
worked
nuts
and were
over the
burnt
fact that
out
they had
crunch
Michael B.
time,
Jordan
all of which were not paid
as
at
one of the
all.
characters.
It also cannibalized budget from other projects like Nomad from Nowhere, all for a series that only appeared on Rooster Teeth first. The trailer alone got way below lackluster reception, and when the decision was made to release just the first episode on YouTube, it did not even pass 1 million views. It barely even scratched half of that. It was a spectacular failure. It drained the company of money and burned its tattered reputation. But it doesn't end there. When Season 2 was announced, it was revealed that for the first 90 days, this Rooster Teeth product was not even going to appear on Rooster Teeth, but on HBO Max, a property that is also owned by Time Warner. This madness of direction was beyond comprehension.
So fans really, like, if you were a fan paying for a subscription at Rooster Teeth, or let's say even worse, you were paying as a Patreon. If, let's say you were a Patreon member for Rooster Teeth, you didn't get the accesses that the Rooster Teeth website had. So you also had to pay for the Rooster Teeth website. And even if you were paying for both, the Patreon and the Rooster Teeth website subscription, you still had to pay HBO Max to watch Genlock. You get me? Which is like where you lost me. And which is why, to this day, I feel like that might have influenced my hatred for, like, paywalling stuff.
Rooster Teeth was not even a headless chicken, because at least those can put one foot in front of the other before death. This brings us to Rooster Teeth's foreboding demise in late 2022. The YouTube channels Rooster Teeth, Achievement Hunter, and even Funhouse were beyond unprofitable. In no world could the couple thousands of dollars these channels were individually paying out be able to support the talent and production crew involved. There were already mass layoffs in the past, and current and competing numbers show that even with those, the employee base was beyond 200. But that pool was about to get even smaller. In October of 2022, there were...
Yeah, they honestly expanded and grew way too much, way too quickly, bro. 419 employees to make YouTube videos? Bro, freaking, what's their face recently? The Watcher? Like, they're over here complaining about having 20-something employees.
High-profile firings. This was the catalyst.
Oh, I absolutely would love to work at Rooster Teeth. That would be freaking phenomenal. But they changed quite a bit. Like, it really turned from, like, a cool, like, YouTube content team. You know, because that's the difference. I don't want to work at a company that makes YouTube videos. I want to work with a content team. You get me? That's a big difference. Other like-minded individuals that also want to create content just like you.
Around it was erupting. Stealing the show was Caden Jensen, a former Rooster Teeth employee that transitioned in 2016 and left Rooster Teeth in 2022. Adding to the current ongoing conversation, they tweeted, quote, "If y'all think what you saw today was awful, and it was and is, understand that this only got your attention because it was someone high profile. It's been happening the whole time, for a long time. Y'all ever wonder why I left?" Unquote. What Caden followed up with was a over 2,000-word twitlonger. Here they detail their hiring in late 2013. Quote, "Within a few weeks of working at Rooster Teeth, I was given a nickname. That nickname was a slur. Every day I came into work, I was called the F word. But they could not use that name in content, so when anyone was recording, I was called Fugs instead. In 2016, I came out as trans, and many people at the company publicly voiced their support on social media. Inside the company, however, things got worse. People had no idea how to deal with a trans woman, so I was interacted with even less and only trotted out every so often to show off, quote-unquote, we hire LGBTQIA+.
Yeah, like I said, it really became a checklist of, like, a company checks off lists, right? A content team creates content with other content creators, and that's what I don't like. Like, you get me? where it's kind of like, oh, this is our employees, and they show up in YouTube videos. At least in like the VTuber community, when like we have situations like that with like Hololive, but at least each individual party there is their own unique personality, and they have their own content. You know, like working at a video game store, I love working with consoles and just seeing old games, but the people is where makes or breaks your experience. Oh, absolutely.
People.
Absolutely.
It was
There's a
only
lot
at
more
this
to it
point
than you
where the
think.
nickname Fugs finally stopped being used all the time. 3 years
And
of
always
content
being in, like,
with
a
that
good
name
mood,
being
always
used
having a
toward
good
me, and all the
personality,
content
like-
is still up. Unquote. They
Being
also
charismatic,
detailed their
like, it's-
experience of
it's
Rooster Teeth's crunch
exhausting.
culture and lack of credit. Quote, my hours in that
Like,
department
mentally.
were 7 a.m. to 11
Not really,
p.m.
like, physically.
I was crunching harder than before. I wasn't allowed to be in anything. I had my name removed from everything I worked on. Unquote. Keaton also mentions they brought their grievances to HR, but that was highly ineffective. The crunch, the pay, the lack of support. All of this was Caden's experience. Closing it off by saying there were only a handful of good people at the company. There were responses all around to Caden's tweet. Co-founder Jeff Ramsey apologized, mentioning they also apologized to Caden when they transitioned and again in 2020. Popular second-generation Rooster Teeth employee Gavin Free, Michael Jones, and Jack Patillo also apologized, saying they look back disgusted at themselves and what they said to Caden. Mika Burton also took to Twitter to back up Caden's claims with her own experiences. Quote, the people speaking up about their horrific treatment at Rooster Teeth isn't news. Seeing N-word written on a whiteboard wasn't even close to my worst experience there. Unquote. Across the board, there were many
Like, seeing the N-word written on a whiteboard. Like, come on, dude.
former and current Rooster Teeth employees apologizing or even supporting Caden's tweet. On October 16th, the Rooster Teeth Twitter released the
Like, I get if it's like, you know, like teenagers, especially in middle school and stuff, constantly trying to say the most outrageous stuff to each other all the time, right? But at a certain point, it's like, y'all are starting to become adults, you're running a company, like, come on.
own statement, which was
You
very
need
dense
to, like,
in corporate speak and
straighten
lack
up a
of
little
action.
bit, you know?
This lack of substance that was also placed alongside their previous tweets where they were trying to establish their moral positioning was all backfiring. Their apology was overshadowed by over 2,000 quote tweets that ripped into their statements. But as it turned out, so was Caden. Not everyone was on board with their response, especially when videos of Caden using various slurs in the past surfaced. This 4-minute one of just super cuts of those moments even got age restricted. The pinned and top comment reads, quote, I literally never heard any Rooster Teeth employee speak this wild. What a turn of events. How did this not come up before when they were working there? Unquote. On Reddit, it was getting similar reactions. Overall, this was another moment of Rooster Teeth's declining reputation. The amount that had come out against the company has hardly been surprising, and its decline in reputation was seemingly matching its financial decline that spurred even more desperate decision-making. Out of these 4 images, 3 of them are fast food designs. 2 of them you can purchase, and 1 of them is Rooster Teeth's new logo. The reason they all blend together is because they all lack the chattering teeth. The one with 3 simple colors and an R and rooster comb was particularly similar to Red Rooster, an Australian
Oh, what the frick? Oh, I thought they were all theirs. I thought all of them were Rooster Teeth.
food chain. The
But
comments
yeah,
ranking
see, it all gets so corporatized that it all blends together
As
into
per
one
a
freaking
Variety
mess.
article, when reaching out to Matt Holm, the change, quote, reflects Rooster Teeth's desire to stand out as opposed to blending in, unquote. The
Even though it
generic,
blends in way
minimalist
more.
design betrayed Holmes' words and displeased virtually all who witnessed this change. This happened March 22nd. The displeasure surrounding the change was so great that in May,
That's
Rooster
awesome.
Teeth attempted to address it with a snide tweet. Quote, check on your friends who are still talking shit about the new logo. They need you more than you know. Unquote. This could have been a strategy to try to rebrand its interactions as wild and zany, akin to how the Wendy's Twitter brand gained its popularity. But that was not Rooster Teeth, and that tweet was not remarkably clever or well received. The replies were nearly all of confusion and of disapproval. That's why Rooster Teeth
Blade
deleted the
even said
tweet
it. What are we
shortly
doing
after.
here? Like, what is this now? What have we become? Like, I love Blade. Blade just out here, like, freaking, like, what have we become? What is this? You can actually see him contemplating his life for a moment there. Freaking A.
Posting it. But it was
birthday's
screen
getting closer,
captured
my
and
dude?
stood on
Oh,
other media
snap.
sites as to
When is
continue
that?
the ridicule they so desperately tried to stop.
Congratulations, bro.
The company was simply trying to hide anything embarrassing or anything that could hint at its continued decline.
Bro, I remember the first couple of times this thing was getting sold out. They had Microsoft there, they had Bungie. Never got a chance to go to one,
that
unfortunately.
That was Rooster Teeth Expo,
Couldn't get
RTX
out to
recap
Texas.
for 2014. Not its largest turnout, but large nonetheless. Then this is RTX 2023 Day 1.
So many accomplished women.
If we pause right at 17 seconds, we see the largest crowd in this entire video. The rest was using select still images. The website also demonstrates a severe fear of wide shots. Where in previous years, Rooster Teeth would promote the growth of their conventions by sharing numbers, since 2018 they were quiet about the declining attendance, though the attendees were confirming it. Quote, "It was definitely quieter than before COVID, but the show
24,
floor
dude,
is bigger,
congratulations,
was less
turning
panels, but
24.
more things to do. And the
Freaking
fact
A,
it
you've
was
already
only the show
accomplished
floor
so much,
plus
like,
3
as a lawyer
rooms
and stuff,
all
dude.
across the ground floor
Congratulations.
and not across multiple floors on the convention center and multiple hotels shows how much smaller it was." Unquote. Though it was small, it was well received for the attendees who had a more intimate experience. But reflecting on its size spelled trouble for Rooster Teeth. In 2023, their channels were unrecognizable. What started as trying to heavily push the once popular Rooster Teeth animations in early 2023 turned into pushing only the new cast members. New members that do not have a following typically need to be gradually introduced so the audience can get accustomed to them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm looking at this right now as a big fan, and I don't know what I'm looking at. I see Gus. I see Gus Sorolla, and I don't know anybody else. But it's weird that I remember Gus's first and last name, like, because he was just so involved with the company, and I feel like Gus, the Rooster Teeth podcast, literally just turned into Gus, Gavin Free, Barbara Dunkelman, and whoever else was on the show that day, man. You get me? That's literally what the Rooster Teeth show was. It used to be Bernie Burns, but then he left. So
that's why this premature launching of video after video that solely included these new cast members was almost guaranteed to fail, and that's why they
it's
were
like
getting
when
all below
Smosh suddenly went
25,000
from
views.
Anthony and
Given
and,
a typical CPM, this could earn them maybe
Ian,
$100. That does
they
not
just
go
like
very
it started
far to
showing a
being
bunch of
host or
children because the
production
company
crew
bought
who are
it. Like
doing an excellent
they were no
job
longer
with
going to be a part of
quality.
it.
But that's
It's like,
the
yeah, people
last
don't know
thing
who
that
any of
matters.
these people are.
Given that Rooster Teeth does not gain
Just
subscribers
because the
and
name of the
content
channel is still the
creators
same
age
doesn't mean
alongside
we
their
know any of the
audience,
content
this new
creators.
generation of significantly younger creators no doubt were not a perfect fit. This had gotten to the point that Achievement Hunter was performing better per video than the main
is
channel
awesome, my
Rooster
dude.
Teeth. But then
Yeah, if you
Achievement
love
Hunter
the
stopped
game,
making
freaking
videos
get it, but
entirely. This
don't
was
spend
part
it
of
on
the
one place,
strategy.
though.
Though the video
It's always
stopped,
good to put
the
a little bit
cast
away.
that at this point only had one original cast member decided to create a different channel and establish their own identity.
So we're here to announce that we're moving on to a new project called Dog Bark.
Oh, that's I like
We
that
thought
one.
you'd
I
like
that
Dog
one.
Bark.
Their channel,
They
Dog
had
Bark.
genuinely smart, like, not Dog Bark. I don't know about Dog Bark. I didn't even know this was a thing now. They had some genuinely good ideas. Like, they had a mobile podcast set up inside of a vehicle so they can go and review food. And I thought that was a genius setup, dude.
Bark, which is a nonsensical name, was very experimental. Achievement Hunter had become very podcast-driven, as had pretty much everything else Rooster Teeth. Dog Bark, however, was a large mix of videos ranging from skits.
Shout out, I will bring back the podcast. I just need to get my scheduling conflicts, like, figured out so me, Burrito, and Chaos can get back on it.
Gaming videos, competitions, and challenges. It was really whatever the cast felt like making. The result was the only video that got over 100,000 views was the trailer. This was the last in a chain of changes that were meant to revolutionize Rooster Teeth. At this point, with the company near death, they were grabbing at whatever straws or strategies could just turn a profit.
Hey everybody, my name is Kerry Shawcross. If you don't know me, I'm a showrunner here at Rooster Teeth. Lately, some of you may have noticed that a lot of our big shows like Red vs. Blue and Camp Camp have gone from being on YouTube and our website to just our website. You might be asking yourself, why'd you guys do that? There's an honest answer, and that is YouTube revenue just is not cutting it for us anymore.
Bro, and like, here is the problem. If you remove content from YouTube, you're not actually gaining more revenue. You're just suppressing your own content. Like, you're making it more and more difficult to actually, like, find that content. and you're making it more difficult for people to access that content. The more walls you put in front of me that I have to like get past, the less I'm gonna watch it. I'll be honest. And it's like I feel like the best shows that they had, the ones that were like top tier that should have continued, like Camp was literally on that South Park level. They could have continued that, but instead they decided to continue with all these different podcasts instead of continuing Camp, instead of continuing Achievement Hunter, which was a genuinely good idea. And there's a lot of channels on YouTube that still make money doing content like that. That was freaking phenomenal. That was a great idea. Y'all didn't continue that though, did you?
This was a push at short-term profit. Moving somewhat popular shows to the website could, for a few months.
Congratulations, my dude. Well, if you can afford it, I understand the situations are a bit different in other places in the world. But yeah, dude, absolutely. If you think a developer, is doing good, go and support them.
Months drive up revenue. But if a company
need the help,
like
and
Rooster
indie
Teeth
teams
was set
are
in
the ones that
existing
need
in the
the
long
most help
run,
right
it
now.
would host its most popular shows on YouTube to prioritize discoverability against higher ad rates. Then even more funding was cut. In 2024, it was quickly announced that there would not be an RTX that year. And in March, it was announced that there wouldn't even be a Rooster Teeth. Quote, please remember something as you begin to read the below message, and definitely before you comment. We, all of us who work at Rooster Teeth, are processing this in real time just like you. Since inheriting ownership and control of Rooster Teeth from AT&T following its acquisition of Time Warner, Warner Bros. Discovery continued its investment in our company, content, and community. Now, however, it's with a heavy heart I announce that Rooster Teeth is shutting down due to challenges facing digital media resulting from fundamental shifts in consumer behavior and monetization across platforms, advertising.
Fundamental shifts in consumer behavior. People stopped watching the shows. And monetization across. People stopped watching the shows, and we're not making enough money on YouTube anymore. Advertising and patronage, or on Patreon.
Advertising and patronage. Unquote. To break this down, the reason they are closing is simply the hemorrhaging of money. But the reason cited, although they convey it was money, it pins the losses on the changing consumer market rather than the borderline self-destructive decisions the company has been making in the past years. From its SBOT strategy that was doomed from the start to the mismanagement and endless controversies, it was Rooster Teeth that created Frankenstein's monster. Yet the remaining core cast were always passionate about their work, staying until the bitter end.
It's really weird. It's really weird that it's not gonna be here anymore. And it's really scary. And I don't know if a lot of us have really reconciled with that quite yet.
I'm a co-founder, and I've been here for a little over 21 years.
Aww. Jeffrey!
And,
I gotta admit, bro, I literally, like, grew up watching Jeff Ramsey go through his entire life situation, It's
I used
wild.
to talk directly to you a lot. In times of crisis in this company, and, I'm sorry, but I'm not that guy anymore, and I don't have that in me. I'm so completely underwater emotionally right now, and my heart is broken for the wonderful people that are in this room and that are and have been associated with this company.
You've had to be the...
I gotta say one thing, bro. Like, if you love something, if you created a company, if you created an organization, something you love and you care about, never give control of it to anyone else.
one to go in front of the audience countless times to defend us and to stand up for us and to be the voice for us when we felt like we couldn't speak for ourselves and we didn't know how to find the words or what to say. You did that for us. And I don't know if we've ever really showed you that gratitude. And you're just such a deeply good person, and my only wish is that everybody in this world could know the real person that you are, and how deeply good and kind and wonderful you are.
To get to work with all of you. And I'm just so proud of...
By the way, I do have to also shout out to Jack Patillo in the back there for being one of the absolute, like, legends of charity and charitable like situations on YouTube. Dude is amazing, and I genuinely hope he continues to do more charity work. I think that would be awesome, my dude.
The people that you've become. I love you all so dearly.
On April 15th, Rooster Teeth released an update sharing its final date online. Quote, the Rooster Teeth website and apps will shut down on May 15th, 2024. Your support over the years as community members, sponsors, first members, Kickstarter and Indiegogo backers, viewers, regulation listeners, common leavers, RTX attendees, stream lurkers, and so many others has been invaluable. The news of us ending first and our site and apps is a hard one to share, as it makes this situation that much more real that Rooster Teeth will be closing soon. We know this is hard, for us and you all, but just know how grateful we are to have gotten to make silly stuff with you for the past 21 years. Unquote. Rooster Teeth was now releasing videos to ease into their departure. The most symbolic by far was one shy of 9 minutes titled Rooster Teeth Founders Play Halo for the Last Time. Lacking Joel Heyman, the 4 other founders, Bernie Burns, Matt Holm...
Joel still never came back, wow. It's wild to think about that, dude, because Joel was such a huge personality in the company for a long time.
Jeff Ramsey and Gus Rella play Combat Evolved for one final time. The technical issues during the process only amplified the personalities and seemed par for the course.
Oh. The fact that the screen is going black every 2 seconds is perfect. I don't know who designed this. I think it's wonderful.
Very par for the course.
This video was far more popular than anything else Rooster Teeth released in the previous years. Just 4 friends on a couch. And no matter what Rooster Teeth tried, it could not replicate what this video was to save its life.
It's like non-stop.
Wow! Lo and behold, the company that started off with a bunch of friends playing video games on the YouTube channel had their highest number of viewers come back when they just stuck their 4 biggest names back in front of a TV on a couch just playing video games and having fun. It's almost as if that's what people like y'all for to begin with. Crazy.
It's off now. It's off. We're just up there.
This really reminds me of Achievement Hunter.
So stupid.
If anybody wants to buy Red 3, it's the Griff controller. Look me up.
I'm keeping this one. I gave myself the biggest controller.
It's sad to see. I like, not a lot of people are saying it, but it definitely feels like a situation where a good company became very corporatized, became very corporate, and it sort of like suffered the consequences of like living in that new mentality of like you know, like you can't really turn content into a corporation without really focusing on keeping that creativity alive. Look at Tatsuki with the whole Christmas, like, the whole Christmas video, where the company wouldn't allow her to release her Christmas song. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta really allow your creators to express themselves and let the creative juices flow, so to speak. I'm gonna subscribe to Jew and the King. I'm gonna share this on Discord. Go ahead and check them out, my dudes. Please go drop them some support, drop them a like, drop them a comment. Thank you so much, Primates, for watching this all the way to the end. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as hit the little bell for a rainbow explosion that will go ahead and notify you every single time we go live or put out new content. Thank you so much, goodbye, and thanks for swinging by.